All right.
Hey Mike,
Hey, Missy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Well, we're Music Oregon is really excited to be interviewing you today, just having a conversation. I feel really lucky to be the person that gets to talk to you again. I think you and I talked gosh, it's been four years ago. Maybe we were kind of like in COVID, but you were headed over to one of many trips to Africa. I think at that time you were doing the music festival and
hmm
yeah, and the African caravan.
Yep, the African Hip Hop Caravan, and you guys helped me get over to the Hip Hop Asili Festival in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so a lot has changed since then. What's I want to introduce you to the audience a little, and then have you kind of like backfill some of this because you're one of the busiest people in the
Mhm.
world. And but I just so people who are maybe meeting you for the first time. So Mike Crenshaw is a legend, and it's not just for being an MC, a rapper, a spoken word artist, a poet, but also for being an activist and an educator, and having just this really interesting, important background in the way that you migrated to Portland and then kind of what you entered into during that
Mm.
time. And so, um, one of the things that really inspires me about you is you came from Chicago to you were born in Chicago, you came up in Minneapolis, and you migrated out to Portland in the early 90s after your mom came here, your mom and your sister. And I'd love for you to share about that migration because, like, a lot of stuff was happening in hip hop in the 80s. And then you entered in the early 90s when we started having like these urban redevelopment zones happening. And so there were, it
Mhm.
was a really interesting time for you to migrate in to this community and this kind of
Mhm.
great hip hop movement. And then you added this other great big stuff. So with that, could you just kind of fill in everything that I may have messed up on that?
Yeah, no, you didn't mess up. I thank you for being somewhat familiar with the arc. Um, yeah, I was born in Chicago on the South Side. Moved around a lot when I was little, around different neighborhoods in Chicago, a couple smaller towns in Illinois. Eventually, my family moved to Minnesota. So I went to junior high in St. Paul, Minnesota, and high school in Minneapolis. Shortly after high school, I moved to Portland and have been here ever since, and that was in 1992. So the I got into hip hop in my teenage years as it was becoming more popular. Um, and I started freestyle rapping in Minneapolis. And I got good at it. And I would entertain my friends freestyle rapping. Now, simultaneous to me enjoying hip hop and going to the record store and listening to the hip hop shows on KMOJ radio, I would, yeah, every Saturday there was a hip hop show called the Hip Hop Shop with Travitron. Um, But yeah, simultaneously to being a hip hop fan, I was a punk fan and I was in the punk scene. And at that time in the 80s, there was an explosion across the United States of Nazi skinheads. And so my friends and I decided that we were gonna in our local scene, before we knew it was a national thing, we had to face it in our local scene. And when we did that, it became violent. And so we had to organize to defend ourselves and each other and other people. We built alliances with other people to help fight the Nazis in our city. And I guess that I kind of became politicized through that. And that informed the way that I approached my music later. When I started doing hip hop music out, I moved to Portland and started doing hip hop out here in 93. So I've been an independent hip hop artist ever since, putting out records, touring, releasing projects, collaborating with different people. The activism came from it was like an evolution from organizing to fight the Nazis and defend our community from these violent white supremacists that led to like the political um, development, activism, working with people to build coalitions. And some of my elders basically encouraged me to study and invited me to be part of different organizing efforts and study groups where I started to read books and learn about history. And so then I was starting to see like, oh, this isn't new, this thing that I'm fighting. This is part of this historical continuum that has to do with these processes that, involve slavery and genocide of Native American people and taking of land and resources for wealth and capital. And here I am today in Portland, putting all of that together still. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's necessary. Yeah, and necessary. I mean, I like what you talked about sort of weaving punk and hip hop together, and then also like how that rebellious. I read a quote just in preparation for this talk that we're having by Versatile.
Hmm.
And he said, it was an interview that he did with a local, I think it might have been KMHD or something, but he said that the very thing that causes the rebellious nature of some of these genres that make it so appealing are also the things that can sometimes make a city go, like Portland. Portland might have had a, he says, maybe it kept the city from giving the love to hip hop that it gets from other cities. But Portland is kind of considered to be this really nice place. But I was really blown away by the origins of hip hop in this city. In fact, my absolute favorite dad hat, and I have to show you this, is Cool Nut.
Just fam.
Cool
Yeah,
Nut.
Just Fam, Cool Nuts, independent hip hop label.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
great. I've
yeah.
I've gotten to know Terrence over the years, and I just think he's fantastic. But like studying the
Mhm.
history of all this and knowing how you were involved is really super cool. So anyway, I also wanted to just say that like there are guys like my husband migrated up from the LA area
Mhm.
early 90s and he would go see you. And there was that
Mhm.
punk, he had come from the punk. He was sort of raised in that punk scene and then came up here and he's like, yeah, this is awesome. So
There
you,
was a, oh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
oh, go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, there. So first of all, peace and love and blessings to my brothers, Versatile and Cool Nuts, because for over 30 years, we've all three of us have been engaged in our own personal careers as hip hop artists in this city. But in many ways, our stories are connected because we chose to be independent hip hop artists at the same time in the city of Portland. And we used to work a lot together. And so our whatever individual successes we have are interrelated. Um, there was a Portland, Oregon hip hop festival that was a concept that was thought up by Cool Nuts, this man named Steven Spirit, rest in power, Steven, our colleague and friend David Parks. And David was a musician who was also in the hip hop scene and the punk scene and alternative music scene. And he recruited me to be an MC in Hungry Mob back in 1993 in Portland. At that time, there were um, a lot of relationships between artists in the alternative music scene and the hip hop music scene because both of us were doing subcultures that participating in music subcultures that weren't recognized by the mainstream. And so,
Like,
sometimes what we would do is we would collaborate on shows together and pull our audiences together. So there was a festival called the AIM Fest. I think it stood for Alternative Independent Music Festival or something that used to happen under the Morrison Bridge every year in the springtime. And Hungry Mob, my band, would play that festival, and there would be other bands like Pond and some of the other alternative rock bands. I can't recall all the names right now. But yeah, it would be an all-day music fest with punk and hip hop and noise and uh I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did you run into any, I know that like one of the current issues, or at least in the past several years that I've heard about, is noise and then certain genres being sort of like getting a lot of attention when they play a show from law enforcement when other genres really don't. And just did what were you guys allowed to just like sort of bang it out and not get any flack?
Well, there was always a struggle to get the same recognition. Now, even though we would collaborate with artists from these other music scenes, alternative music scenes, there was black music and the fact that hip hop was primarily a black art form, even though there are people, other ethnicities that participated in hip hop and contribute to it, it has always been seen by the establishment as something that's associated with these words that are actually dog whistles that don't name African American or black people, but they'll say like urban, you know, or inner city. What they're talking about is they're talking about black people and young black people. And so the media, um, the police, and to a certain degree, the collaboration between the media, the police, and the fire marshal of all things, and the OLCC would sometimes form um, a force that would undermine our ability to thrive by shutting down shows or shutting down clubs that had frequent hip hop shows. And they would cite these or noise ordinances or um, what was it, the code for how many people, the capacity of the club, how many people could be in a club at any given point. And they would say that we were violating those things. And then when we would push back and talk to the media ourselves and create our own narrative, then they would get defensive and say, oh, it's not about racism. And they would make up all these different reasons. Or they would go to the news and they would say uh, that there was a threat of gang violence at these hip hop shows. And, you know, that was a fight that we sustained and we're still here doing our thing, you know, but it's never been easy to be a hip hop artist in Portland. There's always been a little bit of resistance. And, you know, you have cities like LA, New York, Atlanta, and other places that have more established commercial hip hop scenes.
You-
And because there's a commercial music industry there and larger black communities, it was like people often felt like they had to go outside of Portland to get the recognition they deserve.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're making progress, but thanks for staying with it. I mean, you've had a ton of projects. And before we move
Mhm.
into international projects and sort of because I know all of your international projects are also really connected to Portland. I mean,
Mm.
it's and to the United States. So I don't want to imply that like you're going there and doing that and then coming here and doing this. But do you have any recent projects that you want to talk about that sort of relate to venues and the Portland specific community? I know
Sure,
you
yeah.
last year didn't wasn't it last year that you did a really cool autobiographical uh, album about your
Well,
journey?
well, yeah, so my album is actually dropping in a few weeks. I've been working on it for a while, and initially I thought it was going to come out last summer, but you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Being an independent artist means I'm doing the lion's share of the administrative, bureaucratic, and creative work, right, to sustain my music career. So things sometimes take longer because there's so many moving pieces. But the album's coming out. It's called Retribution. April 3rd. It'll be available streaming on the platforms. Um, you know, Burnside Distribution Company is my distributor. We work with the Orchard, so we'll be placed on most of the digital platforms, Apple Music, Amazon, and so forth. The first single off of that album was We Are Tigers. So that came out last year in 2025. And then we put out Retribution later in the year last year. So that's both a single that's recently released, a video, and the title of the album. And then we just released Ice Twice Baby a little over a week ago. So that's the most recent single featuring Anthony Rivera and Drew. Um I've also been engaged in a year-long hip hop project called Rhythm and Revolution that's being hosted by and promoted by the Research Arts Center out in Beaverton. So Beaverton, for those of you who might not be from Portland, is part of the Portland metro area, and they've brought out La Russell, Mega Ran, Divinity Rocks. We're going to be doing the Neighborhood Kids with support from Swiggle Mandela, Magic Line, and Talilo Marfil on May 9th. So that's going to be an amazing show on May 9th. But yeah, the record, check out Ice Twice Baby, check out Retribution, check out We Are Tigers, and the record Retribution will be out April 3rd.
Yeah, I got to go to your Rhythm and Revolution session this last week. I'm a songwriter, and I had a real reason for being there because I wanted to. I'm working on, like, I'm a percussionist too, and I want my rhymes to carry over to the next line and to have more flow. And I'm so inspired by you and what you're saying too, like, because your social consciousness and the way that you say things just really hits me. Like, it hits me really deep in my heart. And but I went to your workshop, and there were, what, 20, 25 of us sitting in this room and in the reserve. And I got so much more out of it. Like, you're a great teacher, and you were so patient with us, but there was a safety in the room, and just this, I don't know, there was a great spiritual vibe that really allowed this diverse group of people, of age, of background. I'm like a grandma of 9. There was another older lady there, but there were people of all ages, all different backgrounds, who felt safe to then offer um,
Mhm.
a product of your teaching during that moment. And
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
strikes me that that's probably the thing that makes me most do this whenever I hear your name. It's because I just love your ethos, and I feel like you also have an ethos, or a work ethic that says, I'm going to do this rather than I'm going to make it. Because, like, this seeking of, like, fame and position can sometimes, like, really block us from being able to reach more people. And though you have made it, and I always notice this about people I look up to, but you're not really going, how do I make it? I'm sitting around going, how can I make people understand and respect me? You're instead going, I'm going to do this. And so anyway, long and short, I was really blessed by that, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, like, what motivated you to become an educator, and do you get the same sense of just, like, explosive joy when you do stuff
Mm.
like that and you see people are responding and they're going to take it into their own music?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So, first of all, I want to apologize. My dog might bark, but hopefully,
What's his
the
name?
Bubba and Bubba's a little guy, so he's got a big mouth. He likes to bark at things that go by, and he heard me say his name, so he might jump on my lap. So, but yeah, thank you for the compliments, Missy. I love what I do, and I do what I love, and that doesn't make it easy. And when I say the last part, it doesn't make it easy, again, being an independent artist means I've had to do so much labor to produce my music and get it out to the world. I do collaborate with a lot of wonderful artists, artistic and creative collaborators, from people like Johnny Cool and David Parks, PSL, different beat makers and producers, musicians that I've worked with. And that helps me. The video producers I work with, like Emma Masai in Tanzania, Dustin Tolman here in Portland, Philip Helene, Cornell Collins, Maria Moreno, who just produced the Ice Twice Baby, which I heard is going to be um, featured in the Portland Panorama. Um, and I'm not quite clear if that's an independent film festival or just a music video festival. So I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of work done over the years, and the work ethic that I have has been based on this understanding that I arrived at as an artist and musician, which is if you want it, if you don't see yourself reflected in the music that's out there, then it's up to you to create what you want to hear, and that's kind of been the driving force that keeps me going. And I don't feel like I'm done yet. I don't feel like I've done my best work. And so that's why I continually push to create more work and make myself available for collaborative projects with other artists that pull out parts of um, my imagination that I might not utilize if it was just me doing it by myself, right? There's a lot of joy in this work, in addition to whatever struggles and challenges we face, um, because I like to create something that I can appreciate. So there is a selfishness to it, right? Because I'm creating for my own ears, for my own heart, for my own mind, things that I don't find to be common when I'm looking at what's available. Now, with the advent of the internet, there are a lot of other inspiring artists everywhere, right? And so I do get to hear more so now people carrying similar messages. Um, but the political consciousness that drives a lot of my writing isn't something that is traditionally supported by the commercial music industry in the way that art that is more shallow and pop oriented is. Uh, you got bands like Kneecap, um, Dead Prez, artists like Sha Rock, um, people like Immortal Technique, of course, the Neighborhood Kids who I'll be playing with in May. Historically, bands like Public Enemy, Rage Against the Machine, um, huge artists like Bob Marley. So there has been historically, and there are people who do carry that political message in their music. And I guess I'm one of those people, and I'm motivated to talk about the things that keep me up at night. I'm motivated to talk about the things I observe, and there's never a shortage. If I pay attention to what's happening in the world, there's never a shortage of things to write about.
Yeah, Ice Baby, Ice Baby,
Ice Twice.
Ice Baby.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so topical, and you participated at a Music Portland event recently where you you moderated a panel for us about the impact of the actions of the current administration and how they
Mhm.
impact musicians and music and their audiences and the venues who support them and the businesses around them that experience a cooling effect due to this sort of fear that gets kind of promulgated by these agencies. And I don't think we showed the video for Ice Twice Baby at the event, but we certainly kind of promoted it out, and then I've gotten to see it a few times. It was fantastic and so topical, and I'm assuming that song must have been born fairly recently.
Yeah, and so ever since I was a teenager, I was oriented to confronting racism. I got bullied as a kid, and growing up black in America, racism was something that I encountered, something that I was aware of, impacting people in my family, my elders, my ancestors before me, the destiny of what black people imagine is possible. for ourselves and for our communities has been so traumatically and tragically impacted and undermined in these destructive ways that are tied to these systems of oppression. Um, so fighting against that, learning how to articulate clearly what the root causes of those systems of oppression are and how they operate systemically and generationally in our lives has been something that is just a big part of who I am, how I do my work, how I engage my community. So when I see things escalating in terms of authoritarian fascism, um, moving towards a totalitarian surveillance state where technology that could be used, resources and money that could be used to make our lives better, to end houselessness, to combat addiction and poverty, to support mental health, um, free education and healthcare, that money going towards the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, um, the degradation of the environment, right? So the commons, if we think about the fact that we live on a finite planet with a like people aren't delivering water from other planets. We only have one water supply on the Earth, and the fact that there's so much pollution in the ocean that it could be compared to two islands the size of Texas, like of plastic, right? And that's getting worse. All the single-use plastic that's driven by these industries and corporations that want to create something cheap, sell it quick and then continue to reproduce and sell. And we don't have the ability to deal with the amount of waste. Like all of these are part of these systems that are interconnected. And the way that these systems were funded initially was through enslavement and genocide, and my people are descendant of this mass movement of stolen bodies of displaced Africans into the New World, which was conquered by these European imperialists and colonialists. And so when I hear the President of the United States declaring war on the population, the domestic population, and sending armed people into our communities to brutalize us, kidnap us, detain us, and murder us, I have to say something, you know, and because I've been a hip hop artist for 30 years, the rhythm is a structure, the beat is a structure. It gives me a platform to express how I'm responding and reacting to what I'm seeing. And if I look at history, I can hear Donald Trump saying in his first uh, presidential stint saying that people from Latin America are rapists and murderers. I can hear him talking about countries populated by people, the global majority, melanated people, people of color in Africa and Asia and Central and South America, and he'll call them shithole countries. Um, Meanwhile, he's a rapist. He's a pedophile. He's a fraudster. He's a money launderer. He's a crook. Um, so what he's blaming working people who might have brown or black skin for, he's engaged in it. And it's not just Trump. He's part of a system that is engaged in wholesale industrial scale mass murder globally and has been from its inception, right? So I know I'm just like
No,
on a
I
rant.
you're making a really good point because, like, to get track, like the projection. that circular projection that seems to be going on. I find that, the only way that I get off that hamster wheel is to take it out into, for me, being a musician, and then I'm lucky to, get to play for people. And I thought, like, what you've done here in terms of developing some collaborations with communities who are directly impacted by that type of projection, like
Yeah,
directly impacted, because it trickles down fast.
that's
And
right.
got law enforcement that are making racist assumptions about people who are traveling in their cars in Hillsborough.
Come on
And
now.
so your collaboration with other artists, from these communities, and being able to sort of develop some strength. I think you said to me a couple of weeks ago, like, the answer here is to speak up, not down. The tendency is to want to put your head down, but the more people who are collectively openly talking about this, the safer we are.
It's true. And I, there's different ways to show up. There's this term diversity of tactics, which was something that, we believed in and embodied as activists who were engaged in community defense and direct action to protect our communities from these racist threats from the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazis and different formations. And there are those of us who are going to go out and confront and put our bodies on the line, right? And we're literally going to fight these people in the street. And then there were people who couldn't do that, but there were other ways for them to show up, and there were people who wanted to engage in policy and go down to city hall and try to encourage uh, people, in the city council to pass bills and legislation that would keep our community safe. But there were those of us who didn't want to do that, right? And so we had to figure out how to bring all of us together and use all of these tactics to keep our community safe. And you see the same thing in response to immigration, custom enforcement, ICE, and Border Patrol and their presence, their violent, threatening presence in our community. There are going to be people who demand that they shut down the immigration center. There are going to be people who go to city council, and then there are going to be people who are going to show up and try to interrupt when ICE is out here trying to kidnap people. And one of the ways that I've consistently been able to engage the problem is through music, and through bringing people together, because that's one of the things that live music does, sharing the message in solidarity with other people we're all impacted by these things happening in our community. And, all the way down to the actual lyrics I write, ice, ice, baby, um, melt it, crush it. It's hot outside. Get a mop in a bucket. People working hard, regardless, struggling. Leave them alone. We want freedom and justice. I don't want to feel like I can't go out into the community and go to work, go to the grocery store, run errands, pick up my kid from school, and like I might not make it home. I might be disappeared. And if some armed thug with a mask on concealing their identity comes up and tries to force me out of my car and I defend myself because I can't trust that I'm not going to die if I go with them, I might get shot in broad daylight, and so I'm in bed or on my couch. I'm preoccupied. I'm like, what rights do I have? Do I have a right to defend myself? I thought I had constitutional rights as a citizen of this country, but the people in power are not doing anything legal. Matter of fact, they're getting away with murder. And this is nothing new for Black people. This is nothing new for Indigenous people, and this is nothing new for Brown people. It's just that right now, the escalation and the funding of state terror, along with the denying of our constitutional rights, is at an unprecedented level. And if we don't push back, then it's only going to get worse. And it might get worse anyway. So that's why I had to speak to what's happening with the song, with the video. I wanted to collaborate with some artists who, similar to me, even though we might be different ethnicities, those are the type of people, we're the type of people who are racially profiled. when we're driving down the street, by police. And my experience with police terror and brutality goes all the way back to childhood. So this isn't new, but I want to have a long, productive life. You know, I want to make it home to see my kid. I want to be healthy and I want to be relatively safe. And that's being threatened.
Could we could we talk a little bit about the ways that your Tanzania project dovetails back into you're doing some work over there. You've also I am not sure if the Tanzania project and the Burundi Center are connected, but I did want to ask you about that. And I also, if you don't mind, I'd love to just screen share the video, Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And if it is, I want to say to the people who are watching this discussion, if it's laggy, I'm gonna in post production drop the link to this video. And so if it's a little laggy, just due to my, not knowing how to do this very well, just know we'll have a link to it for you to view later. But if it's okay with you, Mike, we'll just take a moment and show the video.
That'd be
You want
great.
to set us up while I'm getting the screen?
Sure. This song is called Africa and it features A Revolution and Kilaridi Masai. A Revolution is another MC. She used to live here in Portland. She's back on the East Coast now. And Kilaridi Masai is from Tanzania. So you're going to hear him singing in Masai and also rapping English and Swahili.
Awesome.
Michael Crenshaw, Romani Sada Robot. Africa. Killer Rich, Killer Mingy. Master warrior, Africa. Listen for this thing,
Africa, to back it up as Babylon collapses. The U.S. is a massacre. The West belongs to fascists. Like a pterodactyl flying phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm reaching out, not preaching, but I'm speaking with a practice. Mastery, capacity to grapple with catastrophe. Ability to really see, illuminate the path that we need to take. The ones that we need to break free from. We must change, elucidate, communicate the reason. Travel the path, decipher the math. Happy to have resources. The society is toxic, a concoction that's distorted. See it, touch it, taste it, hear it, feel it, it's important. Know there's something greater which you can't afford us to ignore it. Art and science, defiance, philosophy and culture. Heart alliance, self-reliance, dedication and devotion. The environment, the leopards, lions, cheetahs in the ocean. Divine guidance sets the fire and inspires this explosion.
Eat the rich, plead the fifth, and throw my fist up. Holla at my lawyer if there's anything to discuss. We're disgusted with the system, things broken inside the pistons. They poison our food and air and still expect us all to listen. We ain't for it. Same people that burn down all our forests, houses and lands. It's obvious we're not in the plans. I don't understand. How can you cleanse a land that isn't yours? Selective genocide is something we cannot ignore. I think we need to reclaim our peace of mind while recovering stolen time. Now I'm inclined to make all offenders repent their crimes. We stay focused on our growth while transcending all divides. I told you there's no discussion when we're talking about our lives.
Open the ocean, together as one forever. Together as one. Together as one. Africa. American, Asian, Europe. We come together. Africa. Peace and love, unity for one another. Habari gani hakuna matata isi. Upendo na amani tumeris kwa wazee. Chuki na usisitutenge. Tushikane wote. Together as one forever. Together as one. Together as one. Africa. American, Asian, Europe. We come together. Africa. Peace and love, unity for one another. Africa. Africa. Africa.
Talented, intelligent, qualified, and relevant. Willing to send these senseless killers back to the elements. Prioritize protection, regardless of profession. Effective under pressure, we anticipate aggression. We connect it through complexion, but it's deeper than the melanin. Through discussion, food production, land use, and development. The battle that we fight, the shadow in the light, incalculable. We can't be bought or sold, there is no price.
Nice.
I love that video. I love that song.
I know, I do too. I do too. Like I have so many questions. The shield you're holding, wow,
Hmm.
that thing is powerful.
Yeah, so Emma Masai and Kilaridi Masai. So Kilaridi is the artist. That's my brother, literally my brother from another mother, my brother from the motherland. I met Kilaridi in 2018 as a hip hop artist and a reggae artist. He was performing in Zanzibar, which is part of Tanzania. The Kingdom of Zanzibar is an island in the Indian Ocean off the east coast of Africa. And I was there um, as an extended part of journeys that I take to Africa in relation to this project called the African Hip Hop Caravan that was running from I got invited to be part of the African Hip Hop Caravan in 2012, and so I participated 2013, 2014, and 2015 as one of the lead organizers. Um, and that introduced me to people in Kenya, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. We would tour each of those countries and do a week in cities, the bigger cities in each of those countries. So like Johannesburg, Cape Town, Harare, Zimbabwe, Nairobi, Kenya, and Arusha, Tanzania. And when I was there in 2018, I met Kilaridi and we became friends. I met him at an open mic and was just blown away by his performance. Big shout out to Wavy Joseph. Wavy Joseph is a young R&B singer, songwriter, producer, hip hop artist from Portland. I took him on that trip with me um, as a mentee, and the three of us hit it off really well in Tanzania, and we recorded some music together, um, and just maintain a friendship. And so now I go back every year, and Keela Reedy actually asked me if I would help him with the project in Tanzania. He procured some land through his people. He's Maasai, and we put a farm on the land, and now we got a farm that he feeds his Maasai community through the farm, through the produce that's grown on the farm, primarily bananas and corn, but he also grows green peppers. And it's continuing to develop year after year. So I'll be going back in May um, and supporting that project and probably recording more music. We recorded that video last year when I was out there.
Who was the woman that was also featured in that video?
I met A Revolution through Cypher Saturdays.
A
Um,
Revolution.
that's right. And she's coming back to town, and I need to find the date because she's doing a Cypher at the Reeser. Um, so I'm gonna get that information to you because I want to make sure I have the date right. Um,
Yeah, I can drop that. I can try to put some of this stuff into the description when we post this later on YouTube and that sort of thing. So let's talk about a call to action. And I want to just say this, and we'll say it again and put it in the caption. But to find Music Oregon and Music Portland. Music Portland and Music Oregon are now merged, and Music Portland is a program of Music Oregon. But you can find what we're doing on Instagram. And that's the best place to go right now because we're kind of reconfiguring
Mhm.
everything. But Instagram is up to date. Same with you, Mike.
Mhm.
You're primarily letting people know what's going on and interacting via Instagram right now, right? At
Yeah, I think that's the best way to follow and catch up with events and new music. So at Mike Crenshaw, MicCrenshaw.
Yeah, got
Yeah.
it, got it. And so what if I have two questions for you before we go. One is there a hip hop scene outside of Portland and Oregon?
Oh yeah, there's artists in Salem, Drew, who's the artist that I collaborated with on Ice Twice Baby. He lives in Corvallis,
Nice.
and there's artists in Eugene. There's historically been amazing artists. One of the producers, PSL, that I work with is out of Eugene. Been working with him for close to 20 years. And yeah, all up and down the I-5 corridor, any city, there's hip hop in Ashland, right? The
Mhm.
hip hop is global. So if I can find a farmer, um, an indigenous Maasai farmer in Tanzania doing hip hop, you better believe that you're gonna find hip hop. Shout out to Mosley Wada, hip hop artist that I met. He's also originally from Chicago, but when I met him, he was living in Bend, and I think he lives in Redmond now. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so yeah, it's everywhere.
Well, I ask it because we really are we're expanding, and of course the answer is yes. But I think it's like really important that we begin to, recognize that there is a world outside of Portland, and there's all this beautiful country. Like I heard an interview with you about how you fell in love with Oregon because of the nature and the beauty here. And sometimes we get so Portland specific, we forget about all the diversity of topography in this state too. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I haven't. There's still parts of Oregon I haven't seen yet, but I do love Eastern Oregon. Um, the John, what is it?
John
Eagle
Day.
Cap, John Day, Eagle Cap Wilderness. It's like a different world out there,
Oh, the
So,
hills, the
yeah,
painted hills. Oh
the
my God.
Painted Hills, Steens Mountain. Um, the what is it, McKenzie River watershed in Central Oregon. These are all amazing places, and they should be protected. You know, um, people, indigenous people with ancient land stewardship practices should be making decisions about how we use and maintain the land in this state and all over the country and all over the world, really. Like the people in power are looking at everything with dollar signs on it, and I don't know how much longer humanity is going to be able to exist on Earth if things continue to go the way they are. I wanted to circle back, if you don't mind, because you asked specifically about Burundi
Yeah.
and the work in Africa. So the project that we did in Burundi was a food security project where it started with a computer center. We helped people in Burundi build a computer center. And when I say we, I'm talking about my business partner Morgan Delaney and I, um, who had a company called Global Fam. And Education Without Borders is a local nonprofit that became a fiscal sponsor for us, and we were able to send money and resources and computers to Burundi to start a computer center there back in 2008. And the lead organizer of that project is a brother I met in Rwanda in 2004. So we maintained relationship with him, and eventually the computer center expanded into infrastructure projects, putting in wells, providing potable water for people in communities where women used to hike miles for water, and now they have these wells, and they're deep enough for them to get really clean drinking water and water for cooking and washing. And then they started planting, fruit and vegetable orchards. That work got a lot of attention in Africa, and it helped me strengthen relationships that I had there that eventually got me invited to participate in the African hip hop caravan.
Ah, okay. So yeah, and I think yeah, I think it's kind of important that what distinguishes you from a lot of other artists is that you're really working to create relationships that provide tangible benefit in addition to opportunities for creative expression. And I think what holds true there also holds true here. Like one of the things that you and I first talked about when I interviewed you years ago was the fact that a lot of people have to cobble together a life here with multiple jobs in addition to creative expression. And so, like, sometimes, like, giving somebody a glass of water, so to speak, and quenching that thirst is what then allows for the creative expression to then emerge, you know?
Yeah, we got to meet our basic necessities at the least. That should be baseline, right? And so sometimes we find ourselves in situations where the amount of effort that it takes to keep the lights on, food, clothes, shelter. Let's not even get into education and healthcare, right? But when we don't have those needs met, we're in a constant state of subsistence and scarcity, and we're not able to meet our potential. You know, there's a song I wrote called "I Am" off of my first full-length solo LP, um, and it goes food, clothes, shelter, education, healthcare, peace, and land. I'm trying to get ahead without ending up dead in the streets. And I am, but I shouldn't have to um, spend 90% of the energy available to me to just keep the lights on. And I wrote that song, 20 some years ago, and the inflation has gone up exponentially since then. So we're being forced to come together in community and through mutual aid and support each other's survival because of the system that we live in.
Yeah, unsustainable system, but an irrepressible heart. I
Well,
really believe that. Like I so believe that the energy that the creation of art holds is so much more powerful than oppression and
yes.
solidarity and unity. Um,
Hmm.
trying to find ways to stand as a collective group in the space between those who can't, because I
Yeah.
think a very good point about there are a lot of people who just can't, don't have the privilege to pop right out there and you know insert their bodies in dangerous places. But I love you, and I send you all the peace and prosperity, or at least I hold space for that for you.
Thank
And
you so much, Misty.
yeah, and Mike, you're just a such a leader in the community, and we at Music Oregon respect and care about you. We really do, and I hope that we can continue this conversation. I also want to say, props to the Reezer for really centering the Rhythm and Revolution series. I've been so impressed with the programming that they're doing this season, and I really hope that we can encourage them to keep doing stuff like that, because it really that was a great group of people I saw last week.
Yeah, come out and support that work that we're doing if you can. I want to say this to those of you that are viewing this because if we're successful with bringing people out, then the likelihood of us continuing to do this into the next year is a lot higher.
Nice.
Thank you for the space today. Thank you for
I thank you for taking the
having me
time.
on. Yeah.
And tell Bubba I said hi. He's so cute.
Right on.
Great. Well, thank you, and blessings as you move forward.
Thanks, Missy.
Thank you. Bye.